All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for everyone that's joined us today. We're going to go ahead and get started. And today we're going to be covering work orders for the future. Before we introduce ourselves, I have a couple of housekeeping topics that I'll cover. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we will be sharing a link to you after the event is complete in the next day or two. We do welcome you to revisit this content yourself or even share it with your colleagues. We also invite all questions and comments. If you can look and find the Q&A chat box in the Zoom, you can use that to ask questions if you think of anything at any point, and you can type it in there, and Shayna will be going through and trying to answer as many of those as we can. If we don't find time to get to it today, we will follow up with you in an email. All right, so to introduce ourselves, my name is Ryan Straight. I lead our product team, and I come to Fortress with over a decade of experience, primarily in market research, solving customer problems through products, and optimizing processes and digital transformation efforts for industry leaders like yourselves. I'm joined by Shayna Newman, who is a product owner at Fortress. And before joining Fortress, Shayna worked with an on-site property management team for 5 years in the leasing office. She worked directly with the maintenance teams throughout their daily operations, from creating new work orders received from residents to printing and assigning them to available technicians, and finally updating technicians' notes and closing out those work orders after the service was completed. She had a direct hand in the property's work order management and its success. Now, as a product owner on the Fortress team, she has the opportunity to introduce these new features and products that streamline the entire work order process and reduce the amount of manual work that's required by our on-site teams. So it's literally her goal to make your lives easier. So together, we're excited to deliver the content we've prepared and hear from you, our attendees. During today's webinar, we're going to provide a quick introduction to Fortress in case you're not familiar. We'll walk through best practices for your work order management process, discuss the value of having access to portfolio level work order management, and highlight the impact of using mobile applications in your work order process. In closing, Shayna is going to give a quick demonstration on how Fortress streamlines this work order management process for property management professionals. And with that, let's get started. An introduction to Fortress, we just wanted to take a few minutes in case you're not already familiar. Fortress is a prop tech company that was founded in 2018. We're remote first, but we're based out of Nashville, and we manage all sizes of portfolios to upwards of 36,000 units. Our focus is to innovate and automate property management. Our vision is to transform property management operations and be the most automated property management system. We're passionate about automating the mundane tasks that fill your days, and by centralizing information in our system to make it easier to manage portfolios of all sizes, and making property management easy through an intuitive, clean, user-driven solution. We wanted to take just a quick opportunity to share some of the key results that our clients have achieved by using Fortress. They've seen a 30% lead to lease time reduction using automated workflows. They save an average of 2 to 5 hours per week per person. They experience over 80% adoption rates for their on-site teams, managers, executives, and owners. And 100% of our users say the technology is easy to use and understand. We're proud of the product we've built, and we look forward to sharing how we're tackling work order management today to set you up for a better future. All right, enough about us. Let's review the top 10 or the top 5 best practices for an efficient work order process. To start us off, we wanted to share that there's more than 90 minutes on average spent on every work order that's just managing those mundane parts of the process that could be automated. This is even assuming that you have a property management system that you're leveraging to manage the work order process. So the timing of that could actually increase if it's being done through Excel spreadsheets or otherwise. Later in the presentation, we'll get over how we calculated this and also, of course, discuss ways to improve your time investment as we move through the discussion. One of the main reasons that a resident doesn't renew their lease is due to lack of communication and a failure to resolve their requests. So we're here today to talk about, how we help ensure nothing slips through the cracks, including those renewals because of work order process. So from the outside looking in, the work order management process seems simple. You would obviously prioritize those most important work orders first, tackle the small requests later, but as you start to receive multiple work orders, it can be really hard to keep track of them, know when they were submitted, like know who's been communicated with and why, and to stay organized overall. Establishing your process for residents to submit service requests starts with evaluating your current state. What does that look like? Are your residents today stopping by an on-site office? Are they sending you a text, an email? Are they calling you? When they do send in those requests, how are you keeping track of all of the various places that they are submitting them? And how do you know which request is most important, when they all came in, who's received communication on it, and if they're being resolved in a timely manner? Also, define timely manner. What does that look like for you? Do you have goals set around how long it takes to close service requests? These seem like obvious questions, or maybe they don't, depending on your current setup, but we've been surprised by just how many property management officers don't actually have a process to accommodate service requests in an efficient way. So your process starting out can be as simple as educating your residents how to submit a request, ensuring you have a way to categorize the severity and a way to track their incoming order. And you'll also want to set an expectation on the turnaround time and make sure that your residents are informed of the progress and when the work order is resolved. As a property management company, making sure that your rental properties are in a habitable condition is a must. By habitable, we mean that it meets heating, water, electric, and cleanliness standards, and that it's structurally sound and safe. Repair should occur as quickly as possible to avoid damaging a relationship with residents, including getting negative reviews or having to have uncomfortable conversations. So you should supply your residents with instructions on how to submit a work order, and then how to submit an emergency request and what constitutes as an emergency. There are also regular maintenance requirements throughout the year to keep buildings safe and within legal compliance, which requires balancing emergency work orders with your seasonal work. Setting up a schedule with contractors or work order technicians in advance can help you stay ahead and accommodate those emergencies. For example, winter preparation should actually begin in early October, just to give yourself some extra time. Create a work schedule for the seasonal work ahead of time. There's a lot of tasks that this includes, such as trash receptacles, pools, common areas, outdoor lighting, plants, pests, HVAC, gutters, and more. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it's better to be organized and have a plan in place that allows time for those unexpected and emergent work orders to be completed too. Significant issues are avoided by taking the time to proactively maintain your properties with the preventative maintenance. When it comes to who is completing the work orders, it's best to build relationships with local professionals and contractors that you can count on. Lining up work ahead of time for the seasonal and preventative maintenance ensures that you are completing on time and without disruption. It can also be valuable to have a few contractors in your circle that can be called upon for timely needs, emergent situations, if you're reaching an unacceptable number of work orders or resolution times, or if your go-to professionals happen to be out of office. So you might find that you can also optimize your budget by committing to service in advance with those preventative maintenance needs. And our last best practice that we'll share today is that it's invaluable to set goals and metrics for your work order process and to track those trends over time. By tracking metrics, you can predict patterns that can indicate when it's right to set up preventative maintenance. You can also hold your resources accountable for completing work orders in a timely manner, and you can create more accurate budgeting for the future. A couple of things that we would recommend tracking for your work order process would include the volume and efficiency metrics. So when it comes to volume, a couple of ideas there. You could track the total number of work orders and their status. So you always have a snapshot as to how many are open, closed, and on hold. You can track their location, so how many are occurring in units versus in common areas. You'll want to know the average number of work orders that are assigned per technician, and what time spent on preventative maintenance versus emergency. In terms of efficiency, a couple of suggestions that you could set goals for would include, the average number of hours per week by technician, the days to complete work orders, the percent of week completed on time, and the percent of preventative maintenance completed in the last 30 days. These are just a couple of recommendations and a starting point so that you can start tracking metrics today and make those insights over time and improve your process. All right, so now shifting gears, let's discuss the portfolio view of work orders. Today, do you have easy access to view your work orders across all of the properties in your portfolio in one centralized screen? If you're balancing more than one property, which I imagine most of you are, it's a huge benefit to be able to look across properties at all of the combined data. And when we say centralized, we mean one central screen that drops all of the data in one screen so that you can see information across the board in all of your properties. So I want to dive into a couple of reasons why having a portfolio view of your work orders is important. You can actually create a lot of efficiencies by having one person or a couple of people in a central office that are reviewing all of the incoming work orders as they come into that centralized screen. So if you have 5 properties, you're seeing all of the work orders in one spot. This allows that individual to take a pass at all of the work orders. They could follow up if anything is needed with those residents to get more information or to have them send pictures. This person can also reprioritize something and make sure that it's reassigned to accurately reflect the severity. And then technicians can also be swiftly assigned depending on their skill and location. When the work order is completed, this person can follow up with the resident or even send a survey and ask for a review. So it's really valuable and creates a lot of efficiency, having one person overseeing all of the different work orders as they come in. Next, as a regional, from that regional perspective, you could quickly see the hottest issues in your portfolio from a service perspective. You can identify struggling sites that are struggling to keep up with their work orders, and you can help assemble a crew to quickly squash pending issues. Looking across your entire portfolio can also spotlight opportunities for preventative maintenance and predict a portion of the incidents that will happen in advance. Lastly, you'd be able to create a benchmark for your portfolio. So across the board, you can establish your expectations for the time to resolve work orders and how many open work orders to predict at any given time. You'll also identify trends throughout the year as to which type of issues might crop up and when. And again, you'll quickly identify those struggling assets as compared to the benchmark. So an interesting opportunity by having this overall view is that you can also see, which technicians are resolving the most work orders in the most efficient way and with the best quality. So you can use that data for promotions. Now let's take a look at some of the positive impacts of mobile applications specifically in the managed work order process. So mobile apps make a significant difference. There's been so many studies completed to measure the benefits of using mobile applications in the work order process, including the following. These are just some sound bites. According to a study, ServiceMax found that mobile apps for field service management can increase productivity by 17% and first-time fix rates by 13%. Another study by Aberdeen Group says that the companies that use mobile apps for work order management saw a 38% improvement in their mean time to repair compared to those that were still using paper-based systems. A report by Salesforce found that companies that use mobile apps for field service management saw a 44% increase in customer satisfaction ratings. And lastly, a survey by Plant Engineering said 63% of respondents reported that mobile apps for work order management helped them reduce equipment downtime and overall maintenance costs. I mean, of course, the exact improvements will depend on the specific app used, the industry, and the type of work performed. These are from a varying number of data points, But what can be suggested is that using a mobile app for the work order processing leads to significant benefits. Both the property management company and the resident receive many benefits as a result of providing a mobile app for their techs. We wanted to list some of those out. So when looking at the business, the field technicians are able to increase their efficiency significantly. They can have real-time access to work orders in the palm of their hand. They receive work order notifications and are made aware of anything that's urgent or emergent. They can also capture their notes digitally rather than taking the time to do that in handwriting. And they can communicate to the office and the resident in an automated fashion as their notes are added and changes to the work order occur, removing an extra step. In addition, operational costs are reduced with mobile apps. A few examples include, fuel and mileage to and from the office, money and time saved by using instant messaging or texts, eliminating the paper-based transactions and costs associated, like with papers, printers, ink, and reducing the need to actually store physical records. Overall, productivity boosts are achieved with travel time, an increase in the quality of service, the flexibility to create and modify work orders in the field, and by increasing communication to the resident and the office without you sacrificing more time. Resident satisfaction is increased as well. They can submit work orders and receive updates in real time without having to call or take the time to text. They also benefit from very clear communication as to why work orders would be on hold, when they're expected to be resolved, and when they're closed out. And the expectation and experience for the resident quickly rises to their needs and fits their needs more in the modern and immediate fashion that they're used to, rather than referring to paper-based processes that they were kind of forced to participate in the past. So overall, there's a multitude of benefits. These are just a few that we've captured to show how it benefits the property management office, the technician, and the residents when you use the digital optimization that a mobile app can provide. All right, so we're going to look at a quick work order process comparison and then dive into our product tour. So at the start of the webinar, we shared that each work order can take over 90 minutes of unnecessary time to manage. That's not even including the time that it takes the technician to complete the work order. We'll assume that that's the same with or without digital optimization. So this is the typical process based on what we've seen in the market and where we see this inefficiency. So taking it through a quick example, you can see that the resident needs to report the service by calling in or texting or stopping into the office. The on-site team would then take that information and manually input it into their system. The on-site team would then print 2 copies of the work order and text the assigned technician. The technician comes into the office, picks up the papers, they take the time to complete the work order, and then they add their handwritten notes to the printed work orders. When they're finished, they leave 1 copy in the unit and return the other copy to the office, where then the on-site team has to take that information and manually input it into the system. And then the on-site team would typically follow up with the resident to confirm that the service request is complete. So overall, we're seeing that about 125 minutes could be spent on 1 work order, including the time for the technician to resolve that 30 minutes. So that's where we're coming up with that 90 minutes of essentially like wasted time just by not having an automated process in place. And again, this is even with a system in place, a property management system. So then if we flip over to how we would expect this process to work with Fortress and some of the new work order management automation tools that we've talked about today, you can see that a resident can report their own service requests using a portal. So on their own time, doesn't take any time from the on-site team there. The work order gets assigned to a technician quickly in the system. And then the technician receives a notification in the Fortress Hub mobile app that they have a new work order. They go and complete the work order. They add notes in the mobile app and mark it as completed. And then the resident is automatically notified that the service request is completed and an update is posted to the on-site team's property management system as well. So here we're seeing, there's about 7 minutes that might be needed by the on-site team or a technician to manage each work order, which is about 70% of an efficiency gain, which is pretty impressive. So again, it's just taking the mundane manual steps in the process and automating those using technology. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. Shana is going to take us through a tour of the product and the work order management process that we've talked about today. This is the last component to our presentation. So I'll close us out when Shana's demonstration is finished. So quick time check, we're doing well on time. If you do have questions, this is just a reminder that you can put those into the Q&A tab. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Shana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shana. Good morning. And today I'm going to be demonstrating the life cycle of a work order through Fortress. We'll start by having a resident submit a work order online and then see how the Fortress user can make any necessary updates to the work order, show how the technician in the field will receive this work order and complete it, and finally, how all of these updates sync back to Fortress and the resident. So first, we're going to log in as John Smith to our resident portal account. And on John's main profile here, he'll be able to see the makeup of his household, his documents, his ledger balance, and at the bottom, he'll be able to manage his service requests. One of his options is to edit his household preferences. And by doing so, John can specify if he has any preferences that he would like the technicians to keep in mind when completing work orders during the entirety of his residency here. By saving these preferences one time, this information will auto-generate on every single work order created for John's household, regardless if John submits it himself or if the property submits it on his behalf. For example, if John has an alarm code, he doesn't need to remind the maintenance technician with each new request. He can save it here in the household preferences, and Fortress will make sure that the technicians have this code every time. And if he ever needs to update this code, he can do so here as well. So now John's adding a new work order. He'll start by selecting his unit and then the issue that's occurring. We're going to say that his dishwasher is leaking. He can add any other comments he would like before submitting the form. And once he saves these changes, he'll see here that the work order is now in an open status. We'll return to John's account later to check on any status updates. As the Fortress user, when I log in, I'll be able to view a centralized screen that shows all the open work orders for the entire list of properties in my portfolio. We can see at the top of the list here that the most recently received work order is the one that John Smith just submitted online. However, if I want to narrow down my search results, I can filter, sort, or search by each individual column. Maybe I want to see a specific date range or filter by work orders that have been open for longer than 10 days. This is a great place to keep track of the performance of your properties. I can also search for keywords if I want to see how many residents are reporting a leak. From here, we can open each individual work order to see the additional details, such as the comment that John added, or his contact information and entry preferences that auto-populated based on the household specifications that he added to his account. You can see his alarm code here, and that he would like to be called ahead of time. However, if John reported that he has a one-time entry preference for this work order that's different from his usual, that can be specified here separately. So let's go ahead and update this work order so that a technician is alerted to begin work. We'll assign this work order, and I'm going to update the priority to level to urgent. And here is where we can add any additional notes that the technician might need to know before they get started. So once all these changes have been saved, the work order is updated in real time in both Fortress and Portal. Now we're going to check out the technician's view in the field. So I'm going to log into Fortress Hub on my phone. Now, regardless if I have the app open or not, I will receive a notification anytime a new work order has been created, a work order has been assigned to me, or a work order has been changed to urgent priority, which of course is the case for John Smith's request. You'll also see the number of new items I have yet to review at the bottom on the navigation bar. Each of these new items are also designated on the work order tab with an orange icon that will remain next to the individual work order until I've opened it. From this screen, similar to the centralized view we just saw, you can narrow down your search results by adding a filter. I'm going to say that we only want to see the open work orders under the urgent priority. And once this has been applied, you'll see that there are only 3 that have been assigned to me that meet this criteria, and the one from John Smith's right there at the top of the list. Once I've opened the work order, I'm going to see all the same details carry over from both Portal and Fortress, including John's contact, his alarm code, and the additional notes from the office. And when I'm ready to make changes to this work order, I'll go ahead and select a new status. Now, when placing a work order on hold, users are required to specify why that work has not been completed. Maybe he needs to order a new part. He can add any specific notes below. And because this is not a live environment, we're unable to show the ability to upload photos, but the technician will have the ability to add photos at this point too, to show the work that's been done. So we'll say that he's done so. At the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the communication to residents feature. And this feature must be turned on for each property through Fortress, but if it is on, then any change made to this work order will result in an email and a text message automatically being sent to the resident on file to communicate the progress of their request. You'll see that the details selected above, such as the status and the reason for it being left on hold, will be included in the body of the email message for the resident to see. So once the technician submits these changes, the resident's instantly going to receive these communications. And if we open this work order back up, we'll also see the changes that were just saved. So moving back over to Fortress, we can see that the status is now on hold. And if we open the work order here, we're also going to see all of those same changes that were made by the technician, including that reason for on hold and that they've ordered new parts. And since our technician uploaded a photo too, we'll be able to download and view it right here from our desktop. And finally, let's go back over to John Smith's account, and we'll make sure that he's been updated too. So when I log in, I'll be able to view my request history and see that the status has been updated on hold here as well. So in addition to the email and the text message that I received from the technician, I can log into my account at any time for status updates. And that is the life cycle of a work order through Fortress. So thanks for watching.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Shayna, for your expertise and guiding us through the Fortress products today. And thank you everyone who joined us for today's webinar. We hope that you found this information helpful as you're working to optimize your work order management process with your on-site teams. If you do have any additional questions or would like to connect directly with the Fortress team, you can reach out using the contact information on this slide, and I'll make sure that we get in touch. If we didn't get to any questions, we will be following up directly with an email response, and be on the lookout for a copy of this webinar that will be emailed in the next few days. Thanks for your time again, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.